Hello, welcome. My name is Donna, and this is Yoga for You YouTube channel. And today I want to work on the core. So the core is both a precise physical and energetic space, a space to be worked with both through asana, the postures, and attention. Learning how to incorporate a strong focus on the core can lessen our chance of more common injuries. So what you might want in practice today is a block, if you have a yoga block. If not, you could use anything. Maybe if you had a book that's similar size, you could use that. If you don't have anything available, that's fine. You can still do the practice without the block. So I'm going to set it off to the side, and we're going to begin our practice in something called the constructive resting pose. So we're going to lie down onto our backs, heel toe your feet just a little wider on your mat, and allow your inner knees to drop together. So through this inner spiral of the thighs, it allows the back to become a little bit more spacious. You feel supported here. So just begin to close your eyes. I begin all my practices with a few moments of centering. And this just gives me the opportunity to make not only a physical transition, but a mental transition to my practice. So I consciously try to set aside any thoughts, concerns that I may have, whether it's something that went on this morning or it's going to happen this afternoon. Feel yourself settling into your space, wherever that might be for you today. Bring your attention to your breath. And gradually start to deepen the breath. You'll notice as soon as you bring your attention to the breath, it naturally starts to change on its own. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Cultivating a smooth quality to your breath, smoothing out the edges. Make sure that you're breathing diaphragmatically. So that means if I took my block and placed it on my lower abdomen, when I inhale, the block will gently rise. And when I exhale, the block will gently descend. There's very little movement going on in the chest as I'm trying to create and cultivate this deeper, more effective and efficient breath. If your mind begins to wander, as it will, just bring it back to the breath. Just take one more round of breath from here. And then if you used a block at all, you can just set it off to the side. I'm going to heel toe my feet back into inner hip distance length. And what we want to do is we're going to start to work on a pelvic tilt. So I'm hoping most of you out there understand what pelvic tilt is. If you do not get it, we're going to work on that a little. I'm going to move my arms out of the way so hopefully you can see. So if I overarch my low back, moving my navel towards the ceiling, I get this big space and my pubic bone dips down towards the earth. This is an anterior pelvic tilt. Now if I work towards the opposite, drawing my navel down to the spine, pressing my low back flat, you're going to feel how your bum starts to roll up. So this is a posterior pelvic tilt. Now rock between the two slowly. So I'll arch my low back,
My pelvis tilts down, and then I flatten out my lower back, and my pelvis starts to tilt up. So see if you can find this action. Now, your range of motion may not be quite as great as mine, and that's all right. But we do want to maintain this range of motion in our pelvis. It's good for pelvic floor health, and it's also really good for the low back. So I'm just slowly rocking back and forth between those opposites. And then the next time you finish that round, I want you to just come back to neutral. So you should have a little natural curvature to your lumbar spine, that natural curve. Now bring your fingertips to these frontal hip points. They're referred to as the ASIS joint. Easy to say, right? Anterior superior iliac spine. But we're just going to refer to them as the hip points. So find your hip points, all right? And imagine that if you draw your low belly down, think of the space between the pubic bone and navel. If you gently engage that, these frontal hip bones start to feel like they're cinching together or towards midline. So I want you to get a sense of that. So gently draw your lower belly in like you're zipping up some snug jeans, and feel how these hip points just subtly move towards one another. And it's important that we feel this because we're starting to engage some deep abdominal muscles called the transversus abdominis. Now go ahead and extend your legs straight. Now flex your feet so the heels press down, the toes point up. So basically I'm in supine mountain pose or Supta Tadasana. Now what I'm going to try to do here is that same thing. I'm going to find these frontal hip points. I'm going to gently draw my low belly down until I feel those hip points starting to draw together. It's not a huge action. It's very subtle, but you can feel that. And then relax it a moment. We're going to do that a couple times. Once again, draw your low belly down and see if you can draw those hip points closer together or towards midline. And relax. We'll do that one more time. Engage the lower abdominal muscles and try and cinch those hip bones together. Now relax. Now we're going to activate the leg at the same time. So draw the lower abdominals down, cinch those hip points together, and maintain that action and try to lift your right heel off the floor. Those hip points are still drawing together, and then release and relax. Make sure you're breathing throughout this, and let's try it again. So the first thing I'm going to do is zip up the lower abdominals, start to cinch my hip points together, and then lift your left heel off the floor. Keep breathing. Don't hold your breath as you're doing this. And then set it down and relax. You'll feel those hip points just gradually kind of widen from one another when you relax. Your feet might also default open. Now again, we're going to engage. So engage your feet. Zip up those snug jeans. Start to draw those hip points together on the front of the body. And once again, we're going to lift that right heel up. Maintain all of this engagement. Keep breathing so we don't start to panic the nervous system. And set that heel down and relax. One more time just like that. So engage the feet and legs. Tone the low belly. Cinch the hip points together and lift the left heel off the mat. Keep breathing. And set it down and relax. This is so good. So these deep abdominal or transversus abdominis muscles are our deepest abdominal muscles, and they wrap all the way around to the spine. So they're really important in holding our internal organs in place. They're important for the health of the pelvic floor, as well as helping low back issues. So now we're going to take it a little harder. If that was challenging enough for you, I want you to stay there. Engage the legs, the feet. Start to zip up, tone the low abdominals, cinch those frontal hip bones together. Now, if you're feeling particularly spicy today, try and lift both heels off the floor. Maintain all this engagement. Keep breathing and set those heels down. Let the feet open, relax for a moment. Find the breath. We're going to do that one more time, okay? So, feet are flexed, legs are engaged. Tone the low belly, cinch those frontal hip bones towards midline, and see if you can lift both heels off the floor. Now pause. I'm hoping you're feeling this really deep in the abdominals. One more breath, and set it down and relax. Oh, bend those knees, walk your feet wide, and just do a little windshield wiper action, relaxing the lower back. So you might be feeling some stuff in the low back. If you don't have a pre-existing condition, such as say lumbar disc issues, all right, what you might be feeling is using some muscles we're not really used to using, all right? And now walk your heels in a little closer towards your sits bones. Tone the low belly gently. And when I'm asking you to tone, I'm not asking you to grip and squeeze it down. I'm asking you to gently draw it down as if you're trying to zip up those jeans that sat in the dryer a little too long. And from here, we're going to elevate the hips. So we're going to come into a bridge pose. Just check and make sure that you have space behind the neck. You haven't flattened out the cervical spine. Now shimmy your shoulder blades underneath you a little. Keep reaching or lengthening your tailbone in the direction of your knees. Now you might choose to stay here, or I'm going to start to march. Now what I try not to do is let my hips rock from side to side. So as you lift up one foot and then the other foot, try to keep your hips as level as possible. So those frontal hip points aren't rocking to and fro. Let's do 5 more. And release. Pause a moment. Find neutral spine and then draw the knees into your chest and rock yourself a little. So you're just releasing some of that accumulated tension in that lumbar spine, that low back. And now set the feet back down. Extend your right leg straight out along the length of the mat. Draw your left knee in. Let's just go for a little stretch just because it might feel nice. Interlace your hands behind the left thigh and press the left heel to the ceiling. I'm keeping my left foot, well actually both feet, very active here. This is one of the best ways to stretch overly tight hamstrings, the muscles on the backs of the thighs, because you're taking the back out of the equation. If you do this in a seated position, it can pull on the low back, as well as if you're doing it standing in a forward fold. Here, my back is supported, so I can work on really trying to isolate those hamstring muscles. Now we're going to move back to core. So I'm going to bend that left knee. Now take your left hand and hold on to the back of that left thigh, all right? Keep your left foot very active, so flexed. What I'm going to do here is create resistance. So I'm going to push my thigh into my hand. Simultaneously, I'm using my hand to try to pull my thigh or my knee back towards my face. So you're going to notice nothing is actually moving, but there is a lot of resistance. Tone your low belly in. We already learned how to do that. And try to breathe here. So it may look like I'm not doing much, but there is a lot going on that you might not be able to perceive. And then relax. Extend that left leg out. Right knee is going to draw in. I'm going to interlace the hands behind the right butt and press that right heel into the ceiling. So I'm just taking this opportunity, since I'm in this position, to just get a nice stretch to the back of that right leg. Now your leg may not be completely straight. If your hamstrings are tight, you might have a bend in the knee. So don't get too attached to the aesthetics or how you think the pose should look. Instead, notice how the pose is feeling for your body today. Now, I'm going to bend that knee, flex the foot, take your right hand, hold on to the leg. Now begin that resistance. So press the leg into the hand and use the hand to try to pull the leg simultaneously. So this is an isometric action. Tone the low belly down. Keep trying to breathe. And relax it. Release. So now we're going to go into more of the abdominal work. I just wanted you to get a real feel for that isometric work. Left knee is going to come in again. Both feet are flexed. So we know we're going to hold on to that left leg. This time the right hand is going to come back and it's going to support my skull. I'm not pulling up with it, but it is supporting it. Sweep your right elbow wide. Now tone the low belly. We're going to curl the head and shoulders up as long as that's appropriate for your neck to do so. Now start this activation. Press left thigh into hand. Hand pulls back. Tone low belly and see if you can float your right heel off the floor. So there is a lot going on here. It may not appear that there is. But if you're doing this with me, you know how much work this is taking. Take one more breath and then relax. So let's move to that other side. I'm going to draw the right knee in and hold on to it with the right hand. Left hand is going to support my head. Elbow is going to sweep open. Tone the low belly first and then peel the head and shoulders up. Now start to create that isometric work in that right leg, that push and pull. And then float the left heel up if you can. And we're going to pause here. We're not pausing the breath. We're breathing. Take one more round of breath here. And release it down. Find that steady breath. Now, if you've got a block handy or something that you're using that's very similar, that you can use as resistance, go ahead and grab it. And I'm going to place that block between my knees. Gently squeeze into the block. So when we create this inner spiral of the legs or this drawing in action using the adductor muscles, your inner thigh muscles, it is a direct correlation to our pelvic floor and to those deep abdominal muscles, those transversus abdominis. So hug the block. Feel that. At the same time, gently tone that low belly in and see if you can feel. And then relax. Find the breath. And once again, start to hug the block. Squeeze those inner thighs. Gently tone the low belly in and try and breathe through this. And relax. We're going to do this one more time. So begin to hug the block, tone the low belly, breathe, and relax. All right, so we're going to do a few teasers, and I call them the rope climb. So if you can remember, if you're of a certain age, that in the gym class, they used to have a big rope that was attached to the ceiling. It had big knots in it, and the idea was to climb up the rope, climb up and down. I don't think they do that anymore. They're afraid of injuries. but we're going to pretend we have that big rope attached to the ceiling, all right? We're going to gently squeeze in, tone the belly, reach up and grab one of those imaginary knots in your rope. And we're going to start to peel ourselves up. Reach up and then start to lower yourself down. All the time you're hugging the block. And peel yourself up. And begin to lower yourself down. I'm going to do this a few times. This is really good functional movement. Movement that we can use in our day-to-day life. Trying to get up off the floor, out of bed, things like that. And one more. We're going to make our way up. And pause. So sit up nice and tall. What we're trying to avoid is this rounding into the lumbar spine. So lift your sternum, the center of your chest, away from your navel. So creating more space. Block is still between the legs. Start to squeeze the block gently. It doesn't have to be squeezing for all your worth. Just hug the block in and keep lifting the chest up. Keep breathing. Now, relax those legs. And just notice how the belly, the pelvic floor, the low belly relaxes as well when those legs move away from the body. If your low back is healthy and you want to fold forward, you could place the block in front of the toes. You could place it on the foot, not use it at all, and fold forward. Tone the low belly again towards the spine to offer protection for that low back in this little bit of a rounded shape. And then once again, come back up one more time. Take your block, place it between the knees. Now hug the block and lift your chest so the sternum moves away from the navel center. Long spine, keep hugging. Squeeze in. Find that steady breath. And relax. And go ahead and take your block and you can just kind of set it off to the side. And we're going to come into a tabletop position. Watch that you don't get used to bringing those knees in real close proximity to the wrists. So walk the knees back, stack them under the hips. Now check in every time we come here. Instead of sagging, tone the low belly, then start to cinch your ribs together. And you're even going to feel those frontal hip points that we've been talking about start to draw towards midline. And that's what we want in this position. Now curl your toes under, and as long as you don't have any wrist or shoulder issues, shoulders slide back away, press the floor away, and I want you to float your knees 1 inch off the mat. Keep breathing, don't hold your breath. Maintain your alignment, especially that core, and release the knees. Release those feet, press back into a child's pose, Balasana. And then again, we're going to shift forward. Check in, first of all, with your core alignment. So find your alignment, curl your toes under. Once again, lift those knees off the mat. They just have to float. Keep breathing. And then set those knees down. Release the tops of the feet. Stretch back. And then shift forward once again. And we're going to take that right leg. We're going to stretch it back behind us with the toes curled under on the floor. Now check in again with your spine, your core. Draw your low belly in, cinch those ribs. Now just rock back and forth a few times. Just giving us the opportunity to get a nice calf stretch, a nice stretch to the Achilles tendon, the back of the right ankle. It starts to wake up the feet. Now pause, check into your core again, and we're going to lift the left knee and foot off the floor. And yes, I said that correctly. The right leg is stretching out, but the left knee and foot rise. Now, if this isn't available, that left foot can stay on the floor for a little more support. And then release down, slide that right leg in. Stretch the left leg out. Check in that you didn't allow that low belly to collapse. So lift up, and then do that little rocking motion again. Just notice sensation. Where am I feeling this? Am I feeling anything? Maybe you choose to stop and take a little pause where you're feeling the greatest sensation. Then we're going to shift forward, and that right knee and foot are going to rise. Keep breathing. And then release it down. Bring that left leg in. Curl your toes under and start to walk back. Now, if this is too edgy for you, if it bothers those toes, bring some more weight off of the feet. If you can tolerate it, sit back onto your heels. Sometimes your baby toes don't want to join the party. So you might want to grab those little pinky toes and bring them slightly forward. The chest continues to lift. If your ankles are splaying apart behind you, draw your inner ankles towards midline. They're not touching or hitting, but we're maintaining that alignment. Find the steady breath here. And then shift forward. We're going to make our way all the way down into a prone position, all the way to our bellies. So stack your hands, make a pillow for your forehead, and wiggle your hips a little side to side. This also helps to release tension that may accumulate in the low back during these abdominal exercises. Now, instead of the legs being wide, we already talked about the benefit of inner spiraling the upper thighs. It gives me more space in my low back, and then I point my toes towards the wall behind me. I'm going to keep my forehead down at first. Now, I don't want a big arch in my low back, so what I'm going to do is press my pubic bone down and lengthen my tailbone in the direction of my heels. It'll activate my legs. I can feel my kneecaps rise, and then try to lift both feet off the floor. You can sparkle your toes if you'd like, little Rashmi toes. Stay with a steady breath, and then float those legs down. Wiggle the hips. You might notice your legs have come apart a little bit, so inner spiral the legs, point your toes back. Now before you lift up, press your pubic bone down, lengthen the tailbone first, and then float those feet up. This strengthens the muscles that support our spine, and these are still those core muscles. And then relax. I'm going to do my little wiggle. Walk my inner thighs together once again. Point the toes back. This time, I'm going to sweep the hands back. Roll your shoulders up to the ceiling. Now press your pubic bone down. Float your feet. Float your hands. And peel your chest up. Keep your gaze down. If you look forward, it potentially can compress the cervical vertebra. So down. Keep breathing. Work those muscles. One more breath. And float it down. Bring your hands to frame your chest. Shoulders roll back as the elbows hug in. Press your pubic bone down and start to peel your chest off the floor. You don't have to come as high as I am, but lengthen your tailbone in the direction of the heels. Then we're going to lift up and press back to child's pose. Wiggle your hips a little side to side. Let them sway a little. So we maintain this nice bit of range of motion, releasing tension. And we're going to make our way into down dog. So make sure your wrist creases are facing forward, the toes curl under. As you come up, take advantage of bent knees. So bend your knees deeply and shift your weight back. Look back. If you can see your heels, Slide them behind till they're hidden behind your ankles. Then again, tone the low belly here. Gently start to cinch your ribs, front ribs together. And then you can start to move into your down dog. Sway your hips a little side to side. Bend one knee, bend the other knee. Get into a little bit more of that side body. And then as we make our way back to a more static dog, toning the belly. As we tone the low belly, start to ripple forward and come into plank. If you had to do a lot of shifting of your hands and feet, that might be an indicator your dog's a little short. And then pull up from the low belly and press back to dog. Let's do that 2 more times. Ripple forward, come into plank, and then ripple back into dog using your core. 1 more time, we're going to ripple forward, and we're going to ripple back. Now gaze forward and make your transition to the top of your mat in a forward fold. So don't be afraid or hesitant to put a nice bend in the knees, because this actually takes some of the tension off the low back and allows us to concentrate on the hamstrings. Now, keeping those knees bent, slowly start to lift your sits bones, the bones in each butt cheek, the ischial tuberosities, they rise. Shake your head no a little bit. Notice if you've let your shoulders collapse in the direction of the ears, draw your shoulders away from the ears. Now lift your hands to the shins. Without leading with your chin, we lead with our chest, and lengthen your chest forward. Let the shoulders once again slide back, and we're toning the low belly here. Bring your hands to your hips and take your time as you pivot upright. Release the hands. We're going to move in and out of mountain pose to Tadasana into Uttanasana, our forward fold. If you've got any lumbar disc issues, herniated bulging disc, anything that this really affects, I want you to be super mindful of this movement, of what feels right. Now remember, the further the arms move away from the body, it puts more pressure on that fulcrum point, all right? I'm going to do it with my arms completely outstretched. It's going to take more core engagement and more hamstring stretch. If that does not work for you, okay, you can bring your hands into your heart or sweep the arms out wider. Makes it a little easier. So you choose what's going to work for you. So as we find our mountain pose, we lengthen the tailbone in the direction of the heel so that the heart can rise up and we find this balance. Inhale, if you're following me, arms forward and up. Now I'm going to put a bend in my knees, hinge at my hip creases, and reach forward and pause halfway. Gaze is down, beautiful long spine. And then continue all the way down. If you can't reach the floor, place your block in front of your toes. Now inhale, hands to shins or rise to fingertips. Extend the heart forward and find that length. Tone the low belly as we exhale and fold. Now we're going to come up. So I'm going to come through that halfway point called Ardha Uttanasana. I'm going to reach my arms forward and hinge up so I'm not rounding, and release my hands. We're going to do that 2 more times. Breathe the arms up. Exhale, hinge forward, pause. Belly's in. Release your hands to the floor, fold. Inhale, lengthen, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen first. Add the arms and rise up. Exhale, release. 1 more round just like that. Inhale the arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge forward, pause. Release the hands to the floor. Inhale, lengthen your heart forward. Exhale, fold. Inhale, lengthen. Add your arms and rise up. Exhale, release your hands down. Find that steady breath. We're going to move into a little bit of flow. Not a whole lot with our core today, but a little bit. So inhale, sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge forward. Inhale, lengthen the heart. On your exhale, make your way back, plank position, and pause. Lengthen your tailbone in the direction of your heels. The chest moves forward. Breathe in, rock forward. Exhale, lower down, chaturanga. Shoulders wrap back. Inhale, curl up, cobra or up dog. Exhale, shift back, downward dog. Inhale, the right leg rises, keeping your hips and sacrum level. Exhale, we step it through, left heel down, warrior two. So windmill that left arm up and around and land in your warrior two. Find your breath here. See if you can allow this right thigh to descend. What you can always try to do, it's kind of fun. If you have a block or a book, you can set that block on that leg and see if you can maintain that balance. Take one more breath here. Begin to straighten your right leg. Bring your left hand to your hip. Hinge forward without locking that right knee out. Coming into triangle. So you have your block if you would like. Wrap your right buttocks under, lean back, and lengthen both side bodies. Shoulders roll back. That left hand can reach towards the ceiling. Gaze can be up, straight ahead or down. Just don't let your head drape. Take one more breath here. Now, if you want, this is not a command, turn your left palm forward and reach it forward. So we're getting more length along that left side body. Then if you want, you can reach your right hand forward as well. Breathe here. Take one more breath. And then rise up. Release your left hand. Take that reverse triangle. Float that left hand up as well. Come back to warrior two. Windmill your left arm around, touch down. Step back, plank. Breathe in. Exhale, lower chaturanga, trying to maintain alignment. Inhale your cobra. Exhale your dog. Inhale your left leg up. Exhale, step it through as the right heel spins. Reach your right arm forward and windmill up into warrior two on the second side. Now, if you try that little block trick on the first side, bring that block up to that left thigh and try it on this side. And now release your right hand down. Straighten your left leg, hinge forward. Maybe you choose to use a block. Watch you don't hyperextend that front leg. Release your left hand. Wrap your left buttocks under. And then roll those shoulders back. Lean back. Right hand can reach. Make sure the wrist is directly aligned over the shoulder. That your arm isn't pulling yourself back. Now turn your right palm forward. Start to stretch that right arm forward. Create more length along that right side body. Then if you'd like, reach the left hand. So we're working obliques. Take one more breath. Release your right hand and take that reverse triangle pose. Come back into warrior two. Windmill your right arm up and around, touch down into a lunge. Step back, plank, Lower through chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Meet back, down dog. And then release your knees and make your way into child's pose. So reconnect with the breath here. Start to smooth the breath out. Even the respirations. And then plant the hands. Let's make our way back into down dog. So we're going to move in and out of something that we call fallen triangle pose. So lift your right leg up. Draw your right knee into your chest and flex the foot. Now thread the right foot over to the left side. Thread it in, then pull it back and press it back. Hug it into the chest, thread it through, pull it in, and press it back. One more time. We're going to hug it in, thread it through, and this time we're going to pause. Flex the foot. Roll your left heel down. Start to spin your chest open and reach. So fallen triangle. Now, if you're feeling spicy, you can lift that right foot up. You don't have to. It can stay down. Take one more breath here. Bring your hand down. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to slide that right foot away and set your right hip down. Start to rotate your chest forward. Now, this can become a really deep twist. So you have to decide if it's appropriate. Now, your right heel might be further back towards the back of your mat or further forward towards the front of your mat or the top of your mat, depending on your flexibility. Keep your back toes rolled under and face forward. Now, if you're comfortable with it, you can start to make your way all the way down. We refer to this as the dying warrior pose. Bring in awareness to the left rib cage. And as long as your spine is healthy, imagine you're rolling that left rib cage towards the floor. One more round of breath. Then walk yourself back up. Now, you might choose to stay right here. I'm going to add 3 push-ups to this. So I'm going to lift my right hip off the floor, bend my elbows, and push up for 1, push up for 2, push up for 3. Hug the right knee in, and press back to dog. So we're going to do that on that second side. Left leg will rise. Tuck the knee in, flex the foot, and thread it over to the right. Then bring it back in, extend it out. Tuck it in, thread it across, tuck it in, and press it back. Last time, we're going to tuck it in, thread it through. Now spin your right heel down. Start to spin open and reach. Now again, you can lift that left foot up if you want, or leave it down. And then bring the right hand down. I'm going to shift forward like I'm doing a plank, and set that outer left hip down. Rotate your chest and shoulders forward so you're orienting more towards the front of your mat. Stay here or lower down. Steady out the breath. Take one more round of breath from here. Walk your way back up. Now stay here or add the push-ups. I'm going to lift that left hip up, bend the elbows, push up for 1, push up for 2, push up for 3, and release back to dog. Take a deep breath in through your nose, sigh it out your mouth. Again, breathe in, sigh it out. One more round, breathe it in, and sigh it out. Release your knees to the mat. Shift back. Plant your elbows and just take an opportunity to roll out the wrists. So we have a lot of weight bearing on the wrists there. Go both directions. And then go ahead and make your way to a seat. Just sitting up nice and tall. Now I'm going to utilize my block in just a moment. So I'm bringing it with me so I don't have to come out of my supine posture to get it. Shoulders relax. Now tone the low belly and control your descent down to the mat. And once you're down, let's find that constructive resting pose again. So heel toe your feet a bit wider. Let your inner knees drop together. Bring your arms out just enough that your shoulders can relax, open, and your palms are open to the ceiling. Once again, cultivate that diaphragmatic breath. The belly breathing, so that this becomes second nature for us. If it feels comfortable for you to do so, you can begin to lengthen out your exhalations. That doesn't mean that we're shortening our inhalations. We take the same length inhale. We just elongate the exhalation. This works in conjunction with the parasympathetic nervous response in the body, so it begins to calm us. Now I'm going to take my block. If you have, say, a folded beach towel, a yoga blanket, even a cushion or something at home that you would like to use, please do so. I'm going to lift my hips up, slide the block beneath my sacrum. So the block is supporting my hips, not my low back. And then I'm going to take the opportunity to soften into my abdominals. We've done a lot of work in this class with our abs, so let them just, all this core soften. That will give us that opportunity for a nice, full, diaphragmatic breath. Please make sure that you maintain the natural space behind your neck, that you're not flattening your neck out. Now you might choose to stay right here and enjoy this little respite, or if you would like, and it's comfortable for your low back to do so, you can begin to extend the legs out. Now my feet naturally start to open a bit, but I'm getting a nice stretch along the front of the tops of the thighs and the groin, so into the hip flexor muscles or the iliopsoas muscles. If this is a little bit too edgy for low back, then just bend the knees and place them on the floor. And then start to slide those feet back in so you have nice support. Draw the knees in towards your chest. If you need to kind of reset yourself up on that block so it's more comfortable, do so. For those of you that have really tight hamstrings, you might choose to just stay right here. Otherwise, if you'd like to extend the feet towards the ceiling in this supported shoulder stand, you're welcome to do so. Of course, legs up a wall is always an option by shimmying your buttocks towards the baseboard of a wall and allowing the legs to move up the wall. It does offer us more support, so it becomes a much more restorative pose. Just take a couple more rounds of breath here. I'm just letting the chance of kind of reversing this little flow of gravity, allowing the accumulated fluids like our lymph fluids to move from the lower extremities towards the heart and lungs for cleansing. This is really also good work for the brain, these inversions. It allows a little bit more blood flow into the brain. And then to come out of it, just bend the knees. Bring those feet back down to the floor. Lift your hips up, slide the block off to the side as we release down. And then just pause a moment just to allow the spine to find that sense of balance or homeostasis. Just returning to neutral. Take your arms out wide and heel toe your feet to the outer edges of your mat. And then slowly just rock the legs from side to side, this windshield wiper action. If it bothers your knees to do this, try less range of motion, see if that helps. And then coming back to center, heel toe those feet back in. Draw the knees into your chest and flex the feet. So we start to anticipate the activation of our core muscles here. We do this a lot in class. This is just a nice abdominal twist, referred to as Jatara Parivartanasana. So, but we want to work from the core. So tone the low belly in first, zip up the jeans, and then start to rock those knees from side to side. The closer the heels are towards my buttocks, the easier it is. The further those heels move from my buttocks or my sits bones, the more challenging this becomes for me. Now, the next time those legs roll over to the right, you've got several options. They need to settle. I personally like to take a block and support my lower leg bone. Make sure that the left shoulder remains on the floor, that it's not hovering. If your left shoulder wants to hover, just bring that left hand into your waistline so that you're not stressing that shoulder joint. If you would like to turn your head the opposite direction the knees are going, you can do that and get a nice stretch along the right side of the throat and neck. Then bringing the head back to center. I'm first going to activate my core muscles. So I'm going to tone my low belly, then come back through center. So that anticipation of engaging core helps protect my lower back. I'm going to take my block as I was using it, and I'm going to roll both legs over to the left. Using that support, right shoulder is going to stay down with the right palm rolling open to encourage that external rotation of that shoulder joint. Then I'm going to gaze the opposite direction of my knees. And then bring your gaze back to center first. Anticipate the core. So activate the low belly as we come back through center. And now you can just give yourself a nice little hug, maybe start to rock from side to side. I like like to hold on to my knees, keep my inner thighs together, and start to draw these big circles on the ceiling. So I get into the lumbar spine, the sacrum, into the kidneys, the adrenal glands, and then take those circles the other way if you're choosing to do this. And then the next time you come back to center, make sure your shoulders are relaxed. Tone the low belly and curl your forehead to your knees as long as your neck is nice and healthy. And then release the head down, taking the length with you. Rock your head from side to side, like you're shaking your head no. Extend one leg out along the length of the mat. Flex the foot so we lengthen through the back of the leg as well, and then relax it. Then do the same on the second leg. Flex, relax. Now I like to arch my chest up a little bit. Roll my shoulder blades underneath me slightly so that it encourages those shoulders to roll back or open. Palms up. And we close our eyes. Systematically scan the body. Relax the body. Notice any areas within your own physical body that may be a bit resistant. And oftentimes they're the same space time after time. Release the breath, allow the body to naturally breathe for you. Make sure to release or relax the root of the tongue, so you're not pushing or pressing the tongue into your upper palate. Let the teeth part slightly. Relax the lower jaw. Imagine that the eyes are sinking a bit deeper behind the lids. Relax the eyelids so you're not scrunching your eyes closed. Imagine the muscles in your cheeks melting towards the ears, so the cheeks take on this sense of softening. Relax the space between the eyebrows. And just imagine that your brain itself is relaxing towards the back of the skull. While that may not actually be taking place, that visualization can help relax our thought processes. Now just imagine that you're floating in a cloud of no stress, no worries, no chores, no errands, no to-do lists. For this moment, this present moment in time, you're just floating completely unencumbered, physically, mentally, and emotionally.
Our core is more than just a center of our balance and strength. It's linked to the emotional and spiritual elements in our lives. Remain here in Shavasana for as long as you need or want. And whenever you are ready to conclude your practice, make sure that you make your way out of Shavasana very slowly and mindfully. Taking our time, making your way to a seated posture if you are complete. Otherwise, please stay where you're at. I always like to conclude my own practices with my hands to my heart in Anjali Mudra. This reminds me to cultivate this deep, deep sense of gratitude towards myself for carving out the time to practice yoga for my own well-being. Gratitude for all those teachers that have gone before me to guide me, to show me this path of yoga. Thank you for taking time out of your busy day, for choosing to practice with me. I wish all of you a wonderful rest of your day. Namaste.